Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Devin and I read books, and this is Devin Read Books, and today we're gonna do our second to last video before we start our old school April content. And today we're gonna talk about my 5 favorite horror books that I have in my collection. So again, these are just things that I physically own right now. I'm not gonna talk about like Fear Street books I read from the library in 2002 or anything like that. But without further ado, let's break into it. So this first one is a YA horror that I bought on a whim and has become one of my favorite series, like ever. I loved it so much. I got it from the cover and I was just sold. And that is Adam Caesar's Clown in a Cornfield, baby. Look at that. I love this book. So Clown in a Cornfield focuses on Quinn Maybrook and her father, who moved to this town of Kettle Springs, Arkansas, where the year prior there was a kind of big time tragedy, right? And the whole town kind of seems very unwelcoming to strangers. It's particularly young strangers. From there, Quinn is just trying to settle in as best as she can, and strange things start happening until one night it all goes to hell. I mean, what can you say? Clown in a Cornfield, it's pretty well known now. There's a movie coming out in May, which I'm so excited for, but it is one of the best attempts of modern YA horror at trying to capture the feel of Fear Street books. But I think it does it in a grittier way. There's no R.L. Stine cop-out deaths here. There's also no killing of neighborhood cats, which he also liked to do a lot. But yeah, Clown in a Cornfield is great. I highly recommend you jump on this bandwagon. You know what they say, if your friends are all doing it, you should do it too. The next book is another one that really doesn't need a big introduction, but I loved it. It was one of the best books I read last year, or year before, I think. Year before last, I think I read it. And that is The Troop by Nick Cutter. So, fair warning that Nick Cutter tends to focus pretty heavy on body horror and pseudo body horror, so there's a lot of gross elements to this. The Troop probably balances out that with everything else the best. But what makes The Troop truly memorable is Nick Cutter's ability to really flesh out characters. And all these characters are young boys that grew up together and are now kind of hitting puberty, and they're kind of growing into their own men, and how that affects the dynamic. That's completely secondary to the plot, by the way, or primary and the plot secondary, which the plot is already incredible. So it focuses on these group of boys doing their overnight. I'm going to show it again because I love the cover so much. On Prince Edward Island in Canada, and then a stranger arrives on a boat just eating everything and attacks their scoutmaster, and it is all downhill from there. We have seen it before, but have we seen it with worms? I don't know. It's a lot of horror I haven't got to yet, guys, but it's so good. I read it over the course of 2 days. I could not put it down. It was read, go to work, get home, read more till it was done. It's absolutely spectacular. If you have kids, you are going to bawl your eyes out. It is probably the best horror novel centered around a group of boys or kids in general. And I say that knowing that with the OSA group is going to read Boy's Life by Robert McCammon next month. Moving on, the next one is spectacular. It is probably the most like Wes Craven or 2000s era or even 90s era horror movie style book. That'll make sense once you read it, but that is Kill Creek by Scott Thomas. This was spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. Again, it's just a book, but when you read it, it almost feels like a novelization. Like you could picture the entire movie in your head. Kill Creek focuses on 4 authors who are invited by this BuzzFeed media guy to kind of stay overnight in this extremely haunted house with a sordid history. I dropped it. With a sordid history tied to a brutal attack in a post-Civil War area, Kansas countryside. Post-Civil War, this man and his wife were attacked and murdered. And these authors are all invited to kind of stay overnight and do these interviews. And what makes it really stand out isn't the creepiness or the typical haunted house mind of its own vibe. It's how easily Scott Thomas jumps perspectives, because you get perspectives from all the writers and the media guy, and they all feel different. The character work is just incredible. And so you just kind of bounce around all these different perspectives, getting all these different pieces of the puzzle and clues and things that might be going on. And it's just spectacular. There's so much outside trauma and relationships that drive the story. I was not expecting it to be as good as it was. It was another book that I picked up at Barnes & Noble and just didn't read. And then someone in last OSA recommended it, and I finally did, and it was spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. So book number 4, you may have seen before. It is an AMC show, and it just blew me away when I read it several years ago. I might reread it soon, actually, and that is The Terror by Dan Simmons. So Dan Simmons is one of those authors that seems to be able to just write everything. He's done science fiction, he has done fantasy, he has done historical, he has done horror very, very well. And The Terror is no exception. The Terror is a historical horror novel. It's a fictional retelling of the 1845 Franklin expedition, where actually the main ship was the Erebus. But this centers around the Terror and its crew and how they got trapped on the ice in the Northwest Passage in the Arctic Circle, and how they try to survive. I mean, it deals with everything from mutinies to starvation to people dying of scurvy to eventually something is hunting them on the ice. The prose is weird. It's almost written like a non-fiction history book. Not quite, but close. So that takes a little bit of getting used to, but once the plot really starts taking off, you cannot put it down. Before the thing on the ice even appears, there's all this drama with the men, and you're trying to figure out, like, how is this group going to survive? It's spectacular. It's multiple genres kind of crammed into one, and it works very, very well. And finally, this last one is really not true horror, but I got it in a Nightworms package, and it's my channel, so I can cry if I want to, and that is The Paleontologist by Luc Dumas. I love this book so much. The mystery of it is very good, and there's several. But this book focuses on Dr. Simon Neely, who becomes the curator of the museum in the town where he grew up, where his sister went missing. So he initially takes it because he's convinced himself that this will help him get closure. And then he gets there and he starts kind of looking into seeing if he can look into what happened or any past evidence or reports. But strange things start happening at the museum. He starts hallucinating, he starts seeing things, hearing things. And it's just spectacular. So you kind of dive into this mystery of what happened to his sister, this other mystery of what's going on at the museum. And then on top of that, you deal with a lot of personal things Simon has to deal with. Some of the bullying and the lack of the insecurity he feels growing up the way he did, as everything from being someone whose mother was abusive to just being a gay man and being a young professional in a field that where most of his bosses and most people in his positions are going to be much older, and the elitism that comes with that. And so Simon is just such a layered character that you can't really help but want to keep reading to figure out what's going on and how he's going to get through everything. Like, a big part of this book isn't the mystery, it's just seeing Simon's growth and how he's dealing with everything that he's thrown. And I loved it. I just absolutely loved it. It was absolutely spectacular. This was my first Nightworms package, and it ended up being one of my favorite books ever. Actually, the big reason I finally pulled the trigger on Nightworms was I saw the teaser and I assumed it was going to be this book. But it's just spectacular, and you can tell the author actually did a little bit of research into paleontology to write it, and that is cool. We like that here. But guys, those are 5 of my favorite horror novels that I own. I think this is something I'm going to do another couple videos on, but to kind of change the genre up. If you liked it, please remember to just leave a comment, hit that like button, subscribe if you are interested in seeing my other content, and I will catch you next time.